You ever have one of those nights where it feels like the universe is just setting you up to be the punchline in someone else's joke? That's exactly how I felt, standing there in the Meridian Hotel's ballroom, my hands shaking as I balanced a tray of champagne glasses, pretending I belonged among Manhattan's elite. Crystal chandeliers were throwing rainbows on the marble floors, probably worth more than my annual rent, and I just kept thinking, breathe, Celeste, just stay invisible. My best friend Nina had begged me to cover her shift, and I needed the money so badly. Every dollar was a lifeline. My mom's cancer treatments were swallowing up everything. So at 24, I was teaching art to kids during the day, working whatever job I could at night, and tonight's fancy gala would pay my rent for 2 weeks. But see, I made a mistake. I'd spent weeks making myself a dress out of scraps I'd found at a discount store, midnight blue silk, that made me feel, just for once, like maybe I wasn't just the help. Maybe I could blend in, maybe even feel beautiful. Yeah, that hope lasted about 5 minutes. The second Victoria Sterling spotted me, I knew I was done for. Manhattan's Queen Bee, surrounded by her pack of wolves, zeroed in on me, her voice all sugar and venom. "Oh, look at this little waitress playing dress-up. Did you use your grandma's curtains, sweetheart?" Everyone laughed. The sound echoed off the marble, bouncing around until it settled in my gut. But I wasn't going to let them see me break, so I straightened my back, looked her right in the eye, and said I made it myself. That only made them laugh harder. Then, just for fun, Victoria accidentally bumped my tray, sending red wine splashing down the front of my dress like a bullet wound. I heard the gasps, the snickers, and I wanted nothing more than to disappear until the room went dead quiet. That's when Sebastian Cross walked in. Even if you didn't follow tech news, you'd know his facile, dark, impossibly handsome, the kind of guy who commands every room just by breathing. And for reasons I still don't understand, he walked straight over to me, handed me a silk handkerchief softer than anything I'd ever touched, and in front of everyone, wrapped his arm around my waist and said, "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my wife." Yeah, you heard me right. The shockwave was instant. You could hear the collective jaw drop. See champagne frozen halfway to lips. Victoria's face went sheet white, then flaming red. My heart hammered in my chest. What the hell was he doing? But Sebastian just leaned down, his voice low, "Play along." Before I knew what was happening, phones were out, whispers flying, and suddenly I was the most talked about woman in New York. His mother, Helena, elegant and frosty, came sweeping over to assess the situation, trying to keep control. But Sebastian doubled down, declaring I was his wife and that I deserved respect. The man steered me out of that ballroom like Moses parting the Red Sea. And when we hit the hallway, I yanked free and hissed, "Are you insane? You just told everyone I'm your wife." He just looked at me, all calm and collected. "I saw them about to tear you apart. I couldn't let it happen. I wanted to run home and pretend none of it happened, but Sebastian showed me his phone's social media was already exploding. Headlines everywhere. Sebastian Cross's secret wife, from waitress to wife, Cinderella at the Meridian. There was no putting that genie back in a bottle. And then, out of nowhere, he made me a proposition, said he'd pay for my mother's treatment, help me open my dream art studio if I'd just pretend to be his wife for a year. Sounded crazy, right? But he was dead serious. His family and board were pressuring him to marry Victoria for some business merger, couldn't stand her, needed a way out, and I needed a miracle. I wanted to scream, to tell him he was nuts, but then he started listing off facts about my life, me mom's diagnosis, all the grants I tried to get for my art center, how many jobs I worked. Turns out, he'd had me investigated before even saving me at the gala. A year, he said. Just 1 year of playing house, then we'd quietly divorce. I'd get my mom the care she needed, the kids at the center would get their art studio, and he'd be free of Victoria and the merger. And you know what? I said yes, because sometimes you grab the lifeline, even if it looks like a noose. The next morning, I woke up in a bedroom bigger than my whole apartment, with a view of Central Park that felt like it belonged in a movie. Sebastian's assistant showed up with legal documents, coffee, and pastries. Everything was organized: allowance, medical bills, even locations for my studio. And then came the real test, meeting his parents. Helena was as icy as ever. Richard, his father, polite but clearly measuring me up. They grilled me about my past, my family, my art, everything. I tried to hold my own, but it was Sebastian who surprised me defending my work, saying I'd keep teaching, telling them this arrangement was his choice. After they left, Sebastian joined me on the terrace, both of us staring out at the city. "You're asking me to live a lie," I said. "It's just business," he replied, but we both knew it already felt like more. That's the thing about pretending sometimes. It sneaks up on you and turns real when you're not looking. The media storm didn't let up. Headlines everywhere, reporters camped outside, social media dissecting my life, my dress, even my face. I try not to let it get to me, but it hurt more than I wanted to admit. And through it all, Sebastian was steady reminding me that only the opinions of people who truly know you should matter. But when he took me to visit my mom in the hospital, I saw another side of him. He talked honestly with her about losing his own mother, about the pressure to live up to his family's expectations. For a moment, he was just a guy who understood what it meant to lose someone you love. But then the twist Victoria. She invited me to some fancy cafe, all smiles and poison, slid a $5 million check across the table, and told me to leave Sebastian, make up a story, walk away quietly. "You're just a temporary obstacle," she said, her eyes cold. "If Sebastian wanted you, he wouldn't need a contract." She hinted she knew secrets about him, things that would ruin him if they came out. I left that meeting shaking, confused, but mostly angry. Curiosity gnawed at me until, one night, I found myself searching Sebastian's home office. Buried in a locked drawer was a folder to Meridian Project. His company had been buying up my old Brooklyn neighborhood, evicting families, planning to bulldoze everything for luxury condos. People I'd grown up with, names I knew by heart, were being forced out. The project started long before I met him, but he'd known who I was at the Gala, known what was happening to my community. I confronted him, shaking with rage, and he just stood there, silent too long to be innocent. Finally, he said he'd canceled the project 2 weeks earlier because of me. Said I'd made him remember what mattered, that a business was about people, not just profits. For a long time, neither of us said a word, the truth settling heavy between us. He offered to let me leave, promised my mom's care would continue, the studio would be funded. But when I asked him what he wanted, he finally broke, said he wanted me to stay not for business, not for the contract, but because he'd fallen in love with his fake wife. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I told him if we were going to start over, it had to be real, no more secrets, no more lies. He agreed, hope in his eyes. And for the first time, I chose the mess, the chaos, the unpredictable, because that's what real love looks like. I turned down Victoria's money, closed a chapter on lies, and let myself believe I could belong here, not as some billionaire's contract bride, but as someone who fought for her place, her family, and her own happy ending. So, tell me, what would you have done? Is love enough to rewrite your story, even when the world is watching and waiting for you to fail? Or is every deal, every relationship, just another contract waiting to be broken? Drop your thoughts below, because I promise you, this is one story where the ending's up for debate.